What can we learn by comparing the McCanns and other parents of missing children? I'm Deception Detective. I'm an attorney trained in statement analysis, and this channel exists to expose lies and manipulation. Before I proceed, please hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell. In today's video, we're going to analyze a statement Madeleine McCann's parents made just a few days after she went missing. So this statement was made on May 14th, 2007. She went missing on May 3rd, 2007. We're going to analyze that, and then we're going to compare it to statements made by two other sets of parents whose children went missing. And by comparing them, spot the differences and see what we can glean from that.
Good morning. Kate and I would like to make a short statement regarding three main issues. We'd like to talk about the offers of support that we've had over the last few days, the role of the International Family Law Group who were here over the weekend, and three, we'd like to talk about how we'd like to communicate with the media. We will take two or three very short questions at the end of the statement, but as you all understand, we cannot talk about the investigation, and I hope you understand that there are certain things that we are just not ready to talk about at this time. First of all, you know that we've taken tremendous strength from the warmth and the spiritual outpouring which we've received here and from all around the world.
The first thing here about this statement is it looks almost like a political statement. It looks almost like a politician who's had a scandal and he's standing there with his wife confronting the media because he knows he has to talk about it. Unlike what you would expect in this situation, which is a plea for help, and which we will see in the upcoming videos. And I'm not going to tell you yet whether or not these parents are guilty or not. Their children are both missing. Both have been found. But I think it'll be more interesting for the analysis if I don't reveal if the parents were ultimately responsible until we've done the analysis, just so you can analyze it for yourself as we watch and spot the differences. Remember again, these are the McCanns giving us a press conference like 10 or 11 days. 14th of May, she went missing on the 3rd, so about 10 or 11 days after Madeleine went missing, depending if you count it from midnight or wherever the exact time she allegedly was kidnapped.
And that has given us great encouragement and hope that we will bring back Madeleine safely. More recently, there have been multiple offers of different forms of help, including many financial pledges of people wishing to help Madeleine. We warmly welcome these offers, but this created a problem for us and that how we were going to deal with it. We have brought in our lawyers to help us decide how to best use these offers of support to help us find Madeleine. Since the lawyers have come here, we have visibly felt a burden being lifted from our shoulders, because it's one less thing that we do not have to immediately think about and how we can coordinate them. This has allowed us to concentrate more on our own physical and mental well-being.
Lots of this statement is about the parents themselves, which we might not expect when their child is missing. You would expect typically lots of any attention they get or press to be about Madeleine. For example, holding up a picture of Madeleine, describing Madeleine, eliciting sympathy for Madeleine. However, by this point, if the media had been attacking them, so for example, suggesting that they were suspects and publishing a bunch of articles about them, then this defensive posturing is a little bit more understandable. So I'm not going to jump to any conclusions here and say that this is a total fail, because we've analyzed their very first press conferences that they made like a day or two, the very next day after Madeleine went missing, in my video, How to Analyze an Emergency. And those were a little bit better than this, but they were still fails. So let's keep watching this, then we'll compare this to the other two parents so we can spot some differences. And as you know, if you've binged on my videos or if you've been on my channel for a while, I don't analyze body language. I think body language there might be some benefits to it, but the benefits aren't worth the risk. I think the risk of body language is just too high. It's too subjective. It's not how we evolved to communicate. It's not how we evolved to deceive. We evolved to deceive with our words. And that's why you are able to spot lies through language, because the brain has to perform a lot of functions when it's trying to mask the truth, fabricate a lie, build the lie in short-term memory, store it in long-term memory so it can be retrieved later so that you don't contradict yourself in a future interview. And it requires a ton of imagination. You have to be thinking in 4 dimensions to put yourself in the place of position of a kidnapped kid if you are not, the position of a parent of a kidnapped kid if that's not what you are. And I recently posted on X a great example of how hard it is to lie with your words and fabricate a story is plot holes in movies. Movies have huge budgets. They have blockbusters have virtually unlimited budgets, unlimited time. They have multiple professional storytellers and script supervisors, and still they cannot fabricate an airtight story, an airtight fabricated story. So parents who accidentally killed their child, like I think the McCanns are, I think they accidentally killed Madeline, and then they covered it up with this kidnapping story to protect themselves and their twins, have a very small chance of actually fabricating a perfect cover-up. Same with the Ramseys, John Bonet's parents. All that is to say, we're not going to analyze body language because body language is a lot easier to fake. It's easier to fake tears. It's easier to fake a cracked voice and, furrow your brows, or I don't know what body language people do. I've seen a couple of videos, like he's looking over here, so he's lying, or they're looking over there, so they're like, it's too easy to fake. It misleads you too much. So we're going to focus on the words and where the words don't add up and where the words in a particular context don't add up. For example, contextually, this seems weird when their child was allegedly abducted 10 days ago and they're giving a very defensive, almost political talk to the press. It's almost like they're celebrities meeting the paparazzi and they're setting the agenda. Here's what we will and will not talk about. However, if the press at this point, this early on, was attacking them as potentially killing their daughter, then it's understandable.
We do need to spend more time at this point considering ourselves, our family with Sean and Amelie, and contemplating about the situation that we were in.
I think that might be a little bit of leakage. We need to think about ourselves, our family. And when he says family, he elaborates that the family only includes the twins, Sean and Emily. Why is Madeline not included in the family? For example, we need to think about ourselves, Sean and Emily, and of course, most of all, we should all be thinking about Madeline. That's what you would expect. So the fact that Madeline isn't included in the breakdown of the family could be a little bit of leakage that they already know she's dead or that they think she's dead. Now, does this mean they know she's dead or does this mean they killed her? Of course not. And since I have so many new subscribers, and thank you everyone who has subscribed in the past few weeks, these videos are doing very well. This series is doing very well. But because I have so many new subscribers, I'm trying to reiterate some of the caveats that those of you who have been around for a while might already know. So one of those caveats is we need to find multiple signs of deception before we conclude that someone is being deceptive. So if I point out a sign of deception, that does not necessarily mean that I think the speaker is lying. I'm simply pointing it out so that if we see more signs of it as we go on, we can all agree that we feel more confident accusing the person of being a liar. The analogy I give is the poker chips. If I point out one sign of deception, I'm stacking one chip. If I point out two or three, maybe I'll stack up a couple more chips. And once I feel confident, I'll go all in and say this person's a liar. In the case of the McCanns, we're already about 10 videos into the McCanns now. I think this is the 10th McCanns video. And by now, you can watch all of them here on my DD vs. McCanns playlist. I'm fairly confident in my theory that that Kate specifically accidentally killed Madeline. And then Jerry took charge. They fabricated this story of the kidnapper. And then they've been sticking to that story ever since. Not just to save themselves, but also the way they rationalize it is to protect the twins.
Concentrate more on our own physical and mental well-being. We do need to spend more time at this point considering ourselves, our family with Sean and Amelie, and contemplating about the situation that...
Okay, so we need to think more about ourselves and Sean and Emily. I think this is a little bit of leakage that they know Madeline is beyond the need for contemplation or worrying. Now they need to think about themselves. And this might actually be them setting the table to use some of those funds for themselves, for our mental health. Basically, this speech looks pretty coached. I think by this point, he even said they have counsel. So their counsel's probably setting the stage for them. They probably helped them script this speech in order to set the table so there won't be a scandal when it's revealed that lots of the funds provided to find Madeline were used on the family themselves. And they're already setting the table that we need it for our mental health, our physical health. So if we fly first class to Sweden to do a talk show to raise awareness about Madeline, well, that's our physical health. Or if they put the kids into a private school, or I think in the UK, it would be called a public school, right? It's the inverse. That, we're looking out for the rest of our family. This is for their mental health. They've suffered a trauma because of their sister. Overall, this looks like a very political, scripted speech within 10 days of Madeline going missing.
That we were in. We do, of course, wish to keep communicating with the media.
The other thing here is if you've seen my John Benet Ramsey videos, I've started a playlist about John Benet Ramsey. Her parents early on offered a reward, a $100,000 reward for any information that led to the arrest of the person who allegedly killed their daughter, right? Who allegedly kidnapped and killed their daughter. But we don't see a reward offered here. And we didn't see a reward offered in the early pressers that the McCanns did, which we analyzed in my last McCanns video, how to analyze an emergency. So that is a slight bit of red flag, especially when funds are being provided now. You would expect desperate, distraught parents who think someone has kidnapped their kid to at least offer a reward for tips or to the kidnapper themselves. And we actually see that in one of the other sets of parents we're going to analyze next.
And we would like to thank you all publicly for the excellent job you have done to keep Madeline's profile so high. We believe and have been advised that this is essential in the search for her.
Okay, so that was the McCanns doing a presser about 10 days after Madeline went missing. These ones I think are a little bit closer to the fact. We're going to start off with the parents of a little boy who went missing, and look at their first presser that they did.
It's unlike our son to wander off of our property, and if he did, he would always have our dog with him. Chase has vanished without a trace. We are looking for answers.
All right, so their little boy went missing. As they say, vanished without a trace. Notice the difference between this and the McCanns. Ever since day one, the McCanns have insisted that Madeline was kidnapped. And the conclusiveness of that assertion to me is a red flag of a hoax. It's the red flag of a cover-up. And the Ramseys, who I think actually covered up the death of their daughter, even went as far as writing a fake ransom note, in my opinion, a forged ransom note to set up their alibi even further. So the big green flag here is that they are not conclusive about what happened to their son. All they're saying is he's vanished. And if they provide other theories later, that is fine, because at least they've established that they don't know what happened. The McCanns since day one were resolute that Madeline had been kidnapped. That was a red flag.
For any information that can help bring our son home. We are overwhelmed with the support we have and how the community has come together to help us and find Chase. Anyone with information, please find it in your hearts to do the right thing and come forward. Any information is helpful. If someone has our son, please bring him home.
So this is something the McCanns also failed to do in their early pressers, where if you actually think your kid is kidnapped, you speak directly to the kidnapper and plead for them to return your kid. And that's what the father is doing here.
We won't be angry.
So let's listen again.
Find Chase.
Also remember, I haven't said yet whether or not these parents are responsible. So a good practice is do not be swayed by the body language. Just listen to the words, which is hard to do, I'm aware. That's one reason I go into everything telling myself I'm going to ignore the body language, because I'm human too. I can be swayed by it. A crying mother can definitely sway me. The father, the voice cracking can obviously sway me. But you get more things right, you make fewer mistakes if you can block that out and just listen to the words.
Anyone with information, please find it in your hearts to do the right thing and come forward. Any information is helpful. If someone has our son, please bring him home. We won't be angry. We will be forgiving and grateful. We are devastated to have our son taken from us.
Now the RCMP continue to...
Okay, so notice what they did there. They spoke directly. First of all, they were not conclusive that their son was kidnapped. They said he vanished. He could have wandered off. He could have been kidnapped. He could be playing hide and seek and be hiding under the floorboards. Or a dingo could have taken him, like it happened in Australia, an example I love to use because it just shows that anything is possible. Unless you have concrete evidence that the kid was kidnapped, as a parent, it's actually the last thing you want to believe happened. Out of all the possibilities, that's the last one you want to consider. You might not even be able to accept it, even if there is evidence that your kid was kidnapped. You would rather not believe it. So the fact that the McCanns jumped to kidnapping was a red flag for me from day one. So these parents say that their son was vanished, so all options are open. But just in case a kidnapper has their son, they spoke directly to the kidnapper and pleaded with the kidnapper. Please just return our son. We won't be angry. We'll just be grateful. We won't pursue you. And in my other McCanns video where I actually analyzed their very early pressers, I said that it was strange they did not say basically what this father said here exactly. So I'll reveal what happened, what the full story is here with these parents, after we analyze the next video. But for now, just notice the green flags, the correct things they did. Also, even though the father here had a script he was reading from, that does not mean that this was nefarious. Lots of times if you're emotional, it's actually good to have the points you want to cover. And the points they did cover were good ones. So I don't fault people for having a script. I don't fault them for lawyering up. These are all just good practices to do, whether you're innocent or guilty. If you want to get your message across about your little boy, it might be a smart idea to script it out to make sure you don't miss anything. All right, here's the next one. Now we have a mother talking about another missing boy, 11-year-old.
Hyatt, Gannon's mom, and
also, just as a note, this audio on this one was recorded in mono, so you might not hear it in your left headphone or your left speaker. In case you're only using one headphone, just be aware of that. If you don't hear the video playing, you might need to use your other headphone. I don't know why they do that, but that's just the way this is.
And I encourage you guys, I know many of you mothers and fathers, I encourage you just to find him. I'm so thankful for all the outpouring help that this case has brought. My son is a very loving kid. He wouldn't want harm on anybody at all. And it's so hard to just think, why is this happening to him? I have no clue, but my kid deserves to come home. My kid has a purpose. My kid has a life. And it's important to me, and it's important to everybody that's standing.
First of all, you'll notice we're going to ignore the emotions. Notice the persuasion in the mother. She is begging the audience to feel some sort of attachment to her kid. Right? His life is important to me, and it's important to you. This is how you plead for help. This is the point of a press conference, to plead, to beg for help, to find your kid. Whereas in this McCanns video we just watched, what was the point of it? It certainly wasn't Madeline. It almost seemed like CYA, like cover your ass. They were basically talking about receiving funds and then talking about how they needed to focus on themselves. And like I suspect, laying the groundwork for spending those funds on themselves. Whether that's right or wrong. Personally, I think it's wrong. I would have taken those funds and offered it as a bounty for any information. So, notice the difference where the McCanns have attention from the press and seem to be squandering it. And they even squandered their early pressers, which we analyzed in my other video. So here, 10 days later, they still seem to be wasting press attention. Whereas Gannon's mother is using this press platform to beg, literally try to get people to feel some connection to her son. Right? You don't see her saying, well, we can't discuss this case. Are there certain details I just won't tell you, which the McCanns did even 24 hours after Madeline went missing. And then they did again in this interview 10 days later.
Standing in this room. Gannon, Bubba, little man, mommy's hero, wherever you're at.
Here's another thing Gannon's mother is doing. She's speaking directly to Gannon.
And I support it.
And that's something I said when we analyzed the McCann's first presser, and even this one 10 days later, they continue to fail to do, is looking into camera and basically talking to their missing kid. You know, we love you. We're going to find you. I promise. Just stay tight. You know, hang tight. Behave. So they don't get hurt or get into more trouble. And we're going to find you. Now, is she looking directly into the camera? We're looking through. No, right? If you're watching the video, she's looking directly ahead. She's probably looking into another camera, though.
Support it to everybody that's standing in this room. Gannon, Bubba, little man, mommy's hero, wherever you're at. Mommy and Daddy's here. And we're begging and pleading for you to come home. I know that's your biggest wish, is to see Mommy and Daddy standing here. We're here, Bubba. We're here for you, and I can't wait till you're found, because I have hope that you are going to be found.
Also, notice how she says found. Why the word found? Because her kid is missing. She's not sure what happened to Gannon. He might have been kidnapped. He might have wandered off. He might be, like I said, playing hide and seek. A dingo might have dragged him away. But found is the appropriate word because she does not know what happened. Unlike words like returned, which implies that someone took your kid. Well, if that's not in evidence, if there's no concrete evidence that your kid was kidnapped, the word returned is an odd one to choose. It implies that you know what happened when there's no evidence to prove that, which is a sign of deception. Or even worse, it implies that you're trying to push a narrative that your kid was kidnapped because that's your alibi. That's your cover-up story. So found is actually a great word choice here.
You are my hero. You are the reason why I have life. He's so special to me. I don't think many people can understand. My child was a 1 pound, 6 ounce baby.
Notice how she's talking about Gannon the day he was born. Why is she doing this? Well, it's kind of like what they tell you if someone's a kidnapper has you. You tell them your name because they develop a bond with you and it's harder to kill you. Right? That's the old saying. So it's persuasion. This mother is trying to persuade everyone to care about her little boy, Gannon. So she's painting him as a baby because that's probably, she understands. If you picture him as a baby, your instinct to protect him goes up even further. This means she's innocent, not necessarily, right? A psychopath could do this. A psychopath knows how people work. They know how to manipulate. A psychopath would definitely think of doing that and also putting on fake tears, which is why I ignore body language.
He had a 10% chance of survival. If he survived, he would be profoundly disabled. None of that is accurate. He's gifted and talented. Do anything for anybody. So I'm begging, I'm pleading, if anybody has any type of lead, put yourself in my situation. Ask yourself, what would you do? My Savior is a great Savior. And I know I have hope and that my son's going to be here.
Notice the hope, reiteration of hope that he'll be found. One thing we like to look for in emergency situations is especially missing children or, someone who's doing a 911 call to prove that they're not the one who committed the crime they're calling about, is the non-acceptance of death. So once the parents accept the possibility of death of their kid, it is an actual red flag. Because parents who don't know what happened to their kid 30, 40 years later still have hope that the kid is out there alive. It's a very common phenomenon, the non-acceptance of death. So, for example, if you have a parent who calls 911 and says, my kid is on the ground. I walked in my kid's room, he's not moving. And the dispatcher says, go over, take his pulse. What's his pulse? And they say, well, he has no pulse. So send someone over here now to help. Right? If there's no pulse, the kid is already dead. It's very obvious. Right? Or there's blood all over the place. I don't have a pulse. Send the ambulance now. If you're logical, you understand that your kid is dead. There's no pulse. They bled out. It's over. But parents in an emergency situation do not accept the possibility of death. And this is not just something a psychologist sat down one day and said, okay, yeah, parents shouldn't accept death. Right? This is over the course of hundreds of 911 calls in emergency situations. This is consistent, right? So chances are, if a parent is accepting death, it's more likely that they are guilty or that they know the kid is actually dead.
I'm thankful for the churches, the pastors, the outpouring support from this community, from Albert's military, family, everybody, the detectives. It was you that was sitting at the table, and you told me that 90% success rate, and you told me that I'm going to find Gannon. I believe.
So look at her. Now she's calling out one investigator or one detective and saying, you told me you were going to find my boy, right? You told me 90% success rate. That sounds like a mother who is actually going through it and actually having an emergency. And she is willing to be rude. She's willing to be primal. She's willing to be manipulative. Anything possible to get her son back. Could a psychopath do this? Yes. That's the scary thing about psychopaths. And I think Casey Anthony is a psychopath. And if you haven't seen my video on her, you'll see the difference between the lies she tells and the way that, for example, the McCanns lie, or the way that the Ramseys lie.
It was you that was sitting at the table, and you told me that 90% success rate, and you told me that I'm going to find Gannon. I believe that. It's the first time I had hope since I got that call on Monday. I have hope. So please have hope with me. I'm begging. Bring my baby home. Bubba, I love you. Mommy loves you so much. Nova loves you. Lena loves you. This room is filled with people that love you, and this community loves you too. So please come home, baby. Please come home.
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate what Landon said, that what an incredible community we have. I mean, everybody in here, in a team, incredible team that, I came out my front door, I think it was Tuesday, and there was 300 people out there searching my neighborhood. It blew me away. So thank you, everyone. Thank you.
The other difference between these people and the McCanns in their early press release, here they're thanking people for caring, being interested, searching, and they're crying and, still trying to build that rapport with them, and even bullying, as you saw the mother, right, holding him accountable. One particular guy, you said you'd find my son, which is different than the McCanns when 2 days after Madeline was missing, they were already thanking people like the case was over, right? Thank you to the sheriffs. Thank you to the liaison from the UK for flying in, like it was an award ceremony. These people are thanking them in a way that's almost like they're trying to manipulate them into continuing their search.
Again, and Daddy loves you so much.
And once again, talking directly to their son through the presser. Did the McCanns do this even 10 days later? No.
Please come home.
I'm Landon.
All right. So what is the reality between both of these stories? The first one, the parents standing in the field.
Have our dog with him. Chase has...
These are the parents of Chase Martins, who went missing in Canada. And they found his body in a creek not far from the house with no signs of foul play. So basically, the 2-year-old, a very sad story, right? Wandered off and drowned in a creek near the house. So it's a genuine tragedy. He wandered off, no kidnapping, no foul play. The parents' emotions were real, and that was reflected in the desperacy of their plea and also the non-conclusiveness of their plea. They didn't say whether he was kidnapped or wandered off or taken by Dingo because they simply don't know. And that's what you would expect. If the parents don't know, all options are open because they want every avenue explored, which is dissimilar from the McCanns, who wanted everything narrowed down to a stranger kidnapping, and no other avenues were open to them, even down from the words they chose in their first press release. And you can see their narrative building that early on in the fact that they did not accuse any of their friends of doing it. Whereas if someone kidnapped your daughter, you have no clue who did it, right? So why would you not accuse the friends? Maybe one of them has some skeletons in their closet, some sick perversions that you didn't know about. And they also absolved the hotel in another interview, which was very bizarre. So here with Chase Barnes, the parents keep all options open. They offered a plea directly to any potential kidnappers, but they used the word vanished or something like that, right? Their child vanished, which was appropriate. So that's just a sad story. The child wandered off into the creek. All right, the second ones. These are the parents of Gannon Stouch, 11-year-old boy. Gannon Stouch was actually kidnapped and murdered by his stepmother. And the reason they think is because the stepmother didn't like the stepmother as much as his actual mother, right? This woman giving the speech here is his actual biological mother. So Gannon was kidnapped by his stepmother and killed, and she is now serving life in prison. So the tears here are genuine. But whether you were able to tell they're genuine or not doesn't matter, because I was ignoring them, and you should have been ignoring them too. What we listened for were the words. And the level of manipulation in the words and bullying and pestering and ingratiation and thanking were all actually geared towards bullying people, manipulating them, convincing them to search for their son, which was appropriate. Unlike the McCanns, who were not open with all possibilities, wanted to restrict the conversation to a kidnapping. And when it came down to ingratiation, the ingratiation was about getting people to like them. Do you think this mother cares if anyone in that room likes her? I barely know anything about her. But I do know a lot about Gannon. I know that he was a preemie baby, right? He was premature. He survived the odds. Maybe he survived the odds again. Maybe if I live in that neighborhood, when I'm walking my dog, I'll go a little bit deeper into the woods and see if I can help. Maybe I'll do a little search on my own, because this mother convinced me that this kid might survive the odds. Right? So all their ingratiation is in order to benefit their son, not to get you to like them personally. And that's a huge point. So manipulation, ingratiation, bullying, pestering, all those things can be signs of deception if someone is doing them to get you to like them. Because if they have a missing child, getting you to like them is unnecessary. Right? That might actually imply guilt, that they want you to like them so that you don't point the finger at them and suspect them. These parents, especially the mother, is called out one guy, is trying to build up rapport between her son, not herself, and the audience, and seems to be doing everything in her power to get people to care about her son. So it's the same tactics a psychopath might use, except a psychopath would use those tactics to get you to like them. whereas she's doing all these things to get you to care about her son. So I hope that distinction makes sense. And is also why statement analysis is one of the tools we use, but the other tool we use in deception detection here on the channel is context as well. So some things people might say indicate deception, right? That they're lying. But then we have to figure out, why are they lying? Are they lying to hide something? Or are they lying to protect someone else? Are they lying because they don't trust me? So there's more layers to just knowing whether or not someone's lying. And contextually, right? Or even manipulation tactics. If someone's using manipulation, is it necessarily because they're trying to harm me? No. Here, the mother's doing a ton of manipulation tactics, but it's all to try to compel me to search for her son, which is a sign of an innocent mother, right? The urgency you'd expect from a mother who's doing everything she can to get me to care about her son. So let me know if these comparisons helped. I'm going to do more McCanns videos over the next week because Madeline McCann is winning the community poll right now. I think the case is fascinating because it's the McCanns are not particularly sophisticated liars, so there's lots of lessons to be learned when we analyze them. And then JonBenet Ramsey is in second place, so if you haven't seen that series, it's a new one. I've done 2 videos on her so far. Please do check them out. My most recent JonBenet Ramsey video, which is titled How to Analyze a Kidnapping, may be one of my favorite analyses I've done since coming back to YouTube, and I feel like it's underrated. So if you want to see some just good old-fashioned deep dive statement analysis with some great eureka moments, I suggest checking out that video and watching that series if you're not familiar with the JonBenet case. Until next time, stay true.